Jack, a young antique collector, was thrilled about his latest find. The clock he had purchased from the local antique store was not just any ordinary timepiece. It was a true masterpiece of craftsmanship from the Victorian era. With its ornate design, intricate engravings, and exceptional attention to detail, the clock was a stunning testament to the skilled artisans of a bygone time. The clock's face, adorned with elegant Roman numerals, was encased within a polished wooden frame, exuding a sense of timelessness and grace. Even the clock's brass pendulum swung with a hypnotic precision, reflecting the dedication and artistry of its creator. As Jack admired the clock's beauty, he couldn't help but feel a sense of awe and wonder. It was rare to come across such a magnificent piece, and he knew that adding it to his collection would elevate its stature significantly. The clock seemed to possess a certain allure, an almost magnetic pull that had drawn him in from the moment he had laid eyes on it in the store. He couldn't wait to bring it home and showcase it in his gallery, where it would no doubt become a prized centerpiece. Eager to share his excitement with others, Jack imagined the stories he would tell about the clock's history and the remarkable skill that had gone into its creation. He was certain that everyone who saw it would be captivated by its charm and sophistication, just as he had been. With a newfound sense of pride and anticipation, Jack carefully carried the delicate timepiece, determined to give it a place of honor within his cherished collection. Before he knew it, Jack found himself back at the antique store, purchasing the same clock as if nothing had happened. Unaware of the time loop, Jack went on his way, determined to protect the precious timepiece this time around. He decided to take a different route home, hoping to avoid any potential trouble. As he walked along the unfamiliar streets, Jack couldn't shake off a nagging feeling that something was official. He continued to make his way home, clutching the antique clock close to his chest. Fate, however, had other plans. The bank robbery still transpired, with the robber fleeing in Jack's direction. The robber tripped and his gun went off, shattering the clock and rewinding time once more. The robber, a desperate man named Simon, was bewildered when he found himself back in time after the first loop. At first, he thought he had just experienced a vivid dream, but when the events repeated themselves once more, he could no longer deny the reality. Simon clearly remembered the repeating events, although he didn't understand the cause. As the loops continued, Simon began to notice Jack, who seemed to be present in each iteration. Intrigued by the apparent connection between them, he couldn't help but wonder if Jack held the key to understanding the mysterious time resets. Despite his growing curiosity, Simon had no idea that the antique clock Jack carried was the true catalyst behind the time loops. In the third loop, Simon decided to approach Jack before the robbery took place, curious to learn more about the young man who seemed to be connected to the inexplicable time resets. He found Jack at a nearby park, admiring the antique clock as he sat on a bench. Simon hesitated for a moment before walking up to Jack, not wanting to appear suspicious. He initiated a conversation by complimenting the antique clock in Jack's hands. Jack, initially wary of the stranger, couldn't help but notice the genuine interest in Simon's eyes. As they spoke, Jack began to feel more at ease with Simon. The two men found common ground in their appreciation for history and the stories behind antiques. Jack enthusiastically shared his passion for collecting rare and unique pieces, describing the joy he found in unearthing treasures from the past. Simon, in turn, opened up about his struggles and the circumstances that had led him down a desperate path. He was careful not to reveal his plans for the robbery, but he couldn't hide the pain and regret in his voice. Jack listened intently, feeling empathy for the troubled man before him. The conversation between the two men grew deeper, and they began to share personal stories from their lives. Jack spoke of his love for antiques, inherited from his grandfather, who had been an avid collector. Simon shared tales from his difficult childhood and the series of unfortunate events that had culminated in his current desperation. As they talked, an unlikely bond formed between them, transcending their vastly different backgrounds. Despite their initial suspicions, both Jack and Simon found solace in their newfound connection, each offering a listening ear and a shoulder to lean on. As they talked, Simon's determination to commit the robbery wavered. He began to see that there might be other ways to address his problems. Simon had initially planned the robbery out of sheer desperation. He was drowning in debt and struggling to provide for his sick wife, who desperately needed medical treatment they couldn't afford. He felt trapped, believing that the robbery was his only chance to save his wife and regain control over their lives. However, as he listened to Jack's stories and experienced the warmth of their newfound friendship, Simon began to question his decision to resort to crime. He wondered if there might be other, less drastic solutions to his problems. Despite the comfort their conversation brought, Simon was still in desperate need of money, and the target of the robbery, a company that had exploited him and pushed him into his current predicament, seemed far from innocent. Torn between his conscience and his desperation, Simon ultimately decided to go through with the robbery. The two men parted ways, both feeling grateful for the unexpected connection they had made. As Simon carried out the robbery, Jack happened to be nearby, walking down the street with the antique clock in his arms, still admiring its beauty. As Simon fled the scene of the crime, gun in hand, he stumbled upon Jack, who was caught off guard by the sudden appearance of the desperate manual. Startled, Jack accidentally dropped the precious timepiece. At the same moment, a stray gunshot from Simon's weapon echoed through the air, the bullet grazing the antique clock just as it hit the ground. The combined force of the impact and the gunshot caused the clock to shatter into countless pieces. With the clock destroyed, time reset once more, leaving Jack and Simon to relive the events yet again, unknowingly bound by the mysterious power of the shattered clock. In the fifth loop, Simon, aware of the repeating events, sought out Jack before the robbery took place. He decided to reveal his knowledge of the time loops but kept the robbery plan to himself. Jack, unable to recall their previous conversations but still feeling a connection with Simon, listened to his story. As the loops continued, Jack and Simon crossed paths multiple times, each conversation further cementing their bond. Though Jack couldn't remember the previous encounters, he found himself gradually growing more empathetic and understanding towards Simon's predicament. In the final loop, Simon, deeply affected by Jack's consistent kindness and compassion, decided to abandon the robbery altogether, hoping to find a way to redeem himself. As they sat together in a quiet corner of a nearby coffee shop, they discussed their options and shared their fears, hopes, and dreams. Jack, feeling a strong sense of empathy for Simon's struggles, offered to help Simon find a legitimate solution to his financial problems. He understood that Simon's desperation was driven by his love for his sick wife and his overwhelming feeling of helplessness. Jack believed that, despite the challenging circumstances, there must be a better way to overcome these obstacles. Together, they spent days researching various resources and exploring government aid programs, crowdfunding platforms, and local community support groups. They discovered a non-profit organization that provided financial assistance and support to families facing medical emergencies. With newfound hope, Simon reached out to the organization, sharing his wife's story and their dire situation. Moved by Simon's determination and the support he received from Jack, the organization agreed to provide the necessary aid for Simon's wife to receive the medical treatment she desperately needed. With Simon's change of heart, the anticipated chaos never unfolded, and the clock remained unharmed. The cycle was finally broken, allowing both men to move forward, their lives forever changed by the mysterious power of the shattered clock in previous loops. Thank you for watching. You could download the vocabulary PDF below. To stay up to date on our future videos, please subscribe and hit the notification bell, and let us know what you think in the comments below.